everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. We missed last week because it was a holiday, Easter Sunday, but we are back with lots of things to talk about. When I say we, I mean myself, Gary Mack, and as always, my good pal, Rich Baxter. Rich, you're on the road again.
Hello, Gary. Yes, I am right down here and outside of Atlantic City, New Jersey, at one of my favorite coffee houses on the road.
And Rich, you've been hitting the road a little bit. You were up to the New York Auto College. I mean, the I guess it's the Javits Center, right? The auto show.
Yes.
And did you take in a ball game while you were up here as well?
Yes, I did, Gary. My first trip to Yankee Stadium felt like
Oh,
felt like winter that day, though. It was a little
yeah,
misty, very
yeah.
chilly. Had great seats, had a great time. It was a new experience for me. Yankee Stadium was awesome. They were playing the Phillies. Of course, the Phillies ended up losing, but it was my second game of the year. So already seen four games in baseball, Major League Baseball this year. And I'm going to have a little rant coming up a little later in the program.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
We always like a little rant on our shows, kind of to spice everything up. Well, Rich, it's been a crazy start to this season already. I mean, we've had history making going on all over the place. Shohei Ohtani tied a team record and I think broke it. But of course, the big story is the Tampa Bay Rays tying a major league record, going 13-0 before finally losing a game to the Toronto Blue Jays, and now they've lost two in a row. I hope they don't lose 13 in a row now. But Tampa Bay winning 13 in a row to start the season.
Yeah, you had to know they were going to lose eventually, but yeah, 13-0. That was a storybook start to their season. I believe you have to go back to the three teams tied that record, 13-0. Two other teams in the 80s, believe it or not. So it's been done before, but yeah, one more win would have given them the record, I believe, for modern day Major League ball clubs. But what a great start. You know, our teams, our favorite teams, mine's the Phillies, yours is the Mets. We haven't had that good of luck so far this year.
Yeah, our teams have been scuffling a little bit. I would say and hope you take this in the right way. I'm not too surprised with the Phillies because I think there's a World Series hangover there. Uh, that's why I think that they're probably off struggling. But the main thing I think, and it's affecting the Mets and the Phillies and a number of teams all over baseball, is injuries. Injuries seem to every day you seem to see on the news more and more injuries and I don't know. Is it related to the Winter Classic again? That argument comes up again and again, and with the amount of injuries going on, I mean, the Phillies are they're what their third string first baseman. They've lost Hoskins. They brought in a replacement, Derek Hall, and then he gets hurt. And now they're using the third baseman at first, but the guy that was playing third just got hurt. So I mean, it is really a lot of injuries going around. Of course, the Mets lost Edwin Diaz, and not just to our teams. Phillies lost. I'm sorry, the Pirates lost some key players so far, but they're really a surprise so far with a 9-6 record. The Pittsburgh Pirates. They're managing to keep it together. So very early in the season, though, Rich. So we'll see. But any thoughts on these injuries and what could be the problem?
Well, yeah, injuries, of course, as we know, they're part of the game. It doesn't matter if you're in the World Baseball Classic, if you're on a practice diamond, or if you're playing Major League Baseball, you're going to be prone to injuries. Derek Hall slid into second a little oddly. His thumb sort of caught the bag. at an odd angle, and then before you know it, he's having surgery. He's out for a few weeks. Hoskins the same way. He was on preseason baseball, made a move to the left or the right, a little odd move, and twisted and turned something, and that was the end of him for the season. So these things are going to happen, in my opinion. I don't think the World Baseball Classic had too much to do with it. It's might have thrown off some of the players that were in the Classic, and now they're having a stutter start to 2022 because they sort of started a little early this year, started playing a week to 10 days after they reported the spring training. So it wasn't too much of a get ready period for them. But, you know, speaking of baseball, and then just segue into our next section here, is the timing of the games with the pitch clock now. Timing of the games way too fast, in my opinion. And I know we've had this conversation. I've had the conversation with a co-host on Phillies Talk. I've had conversations in shopping malls with people wear my baseball hat around it. It elicits a conversation usually. And I have to go back to last week. I was in a mall. An elderly woman started talking to me about the pace of play this year. She complained bitterly. She had been to a game already and said it was ridiculous how fast the game is going by. And it's true. It's under 2 hours and 40 minutes is the average right now, 2 hours 30, somewhere around there. Way too fast, faster than a football game, faster than a hockey game. If you're at the ballpark, it moves twice as fast. If you're home, then I guess you're in favor of it because you're watching TV, you can do other things, so on and so forth. But if you're at the game, you have to get up, you have to go to the restroom, you have to get up, you have to get a hot dog, a soda, a beer. There's lines to get these beers. It takes you 20 minutes sometimes to get from your seat and back and forth before you might lose a half an inning. Now you're into a whole inning if you're lucky. So, my opinion, they're going to have to change this.
I think they like it, so they're not going to. I don't think they are going to change it, really, unless there's a lot of complaints. And so far you hear positive reactions from people, not necessarily fans, more the officials and the higher ups in Major League Baseball. But this is what they wanted. They wanted more play. They wanted a faster pace of play, and we've been talking about this for years. How they've tried all kinds of things, and this seems to be working. The games are, I don't know if they're any crisper being played, but they are a little quicker. And I
A
get what
little,
you're saying.
a little, a little. Go to a ball game. You have to travel at least an hour plus to get to the stadium. So do
Oh,
I.
I
That's an hour and
understand
an
what you're
hour.
saying.
It's over faster than it takes you to get there and get home
I
sometimes.
I get it.
Go to a couple games and then talk to me about pace of play and tell me that
And
you
then
like it.
you're paying $40 to park or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're out of there so quick. I agree, but I think you hit the nail right on the head. If you talk to people that go to the game, they're gonna say they hate it. If you talk to people that watch at home, they're gonna like it. And it just I will say this though, after watching a couple of games, the other night, the Friday night, the Mets played Oakland. They're in Oakland now, and they won 17-3, I think it was. And I got to tell you, I was starting to snooze at the end because it was like a 3-hour game, and and I was like, "Is this thing over yet?" And we were hitting and winning. Well, we weren't hitting. That was part of it as well. I think Oakland pitchers walked the 13 Mets, and in one inning they walked like 6 in a row or 5 in a row. So that added to it. That Because that's boring. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If the Mets were hitting, and then it would have been more entertaining, but they were not. Still scored 17 runs. But anyway, I don't know. I don't. I think we have to go through a whole year before we really make a decision on this. And I understand what you're saying. It's time consuming. They're gonna have to open up more stands or something so the lines aren't as bad.
Well,
Uh,
that's the thing. And it's not the minor leagues. That's another thing. This may work well in the minor leagues where you're paying $12 for a ticket. The stands are much smaller. There's a lot less people there. When you get 30 to 40,000 to 45,000 all congregated in one area, I don't care if you have 100 stands and 100 bathrooms, you're still going to have a line. And Major League Baseball is not built for this type of pace of play. It's way too fast. You're going to have attendance drops. There's no doubt. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people that have been to games. They're kind of upset. You know, they get a hot dog back to their seat. They barely eat it. And 2 innings, 2.5 innings have gone by.
yeah,
It's just,
yeah.
it's way too fast. It's lightning fast. Yeah. The employees may love it. And even they were shocked when I was leaving the stadium a couple times. I was telling some of the guards, I said, I felt like I just got here. And they were like, yeah, you did just get here. And I was leaving just as fast. But they agreed, they can't believe it either privately. They're not going to come on camera and jeopardize their jobs and say, oh yeah, it's way too fast. But you know, those that are paying the tickets, I believe, are going to stop buying tickets because it's just like one of those movies where you go to and you didn't realize, hey, it's an hour and a half movie. I'm out of there already.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you're looking for more.
Well, let me ask you, when you were a kid and you went to a game, did it seem, I mean, these are no faster or any, than when we were kids. I mean, especially
I
me.
it's
And
Mhm.
go ahead.
Now go ahead, finish your.
No, I was just gonna say the games were much faster when we were when at least when I was younger. I can remember less than 2 hour games. And what is the difference now? You're older, and I mean, it's only going back to that more or less. I know we have the pitch clock now. We didn't have it then, but I'm just saying the length of the game is going back to where it was. I believe I heard something last night that they said is equivalent to the game times in 1987. So it's really not even going back that far. Uh, if you look at the games, some of Babe Ruth games back in the 20s, 1920s and stuff, they were an hour and 58 minutes,
Mhm.
hour 57 minutes, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 minutes.
Mhm.
We're not even back to that. And so if we're going back to 1987 with the speed of the games, with the addition of the pitch clock, why are we so used to now such a long game that going back to only 40 years ago is throwing us all off?
The difference is when you're at the stadium, it feels rushed. It feels like,
Mhm.
oh God, we got to keep playing here. We have to, keep up the pressure. We have to, 17-3 games are ending in 2.5 hours. How can that be? It's next to impossible. You've got pitching changes, you've got stoppages of play with you know, first base disputes, call disputes. You're still ending at 2 hours and a half. It's a total rush when you're at the ballpark. You feel like you just sat down. You feel like you're going to grandmom's house, but you're being rushed out, in other words. And that's the way I looked at it when I was there. I was in a luxury box for the first time ever in Philadelphia, and I couldn't even enjoy it. I was sitting there, and before I knew it, they were playing the seventh inning stretch, and I was getting up to leave, and I said, "Wow, I just spent, you know, X amount of dollars on this luxury box seat, but I'm leaving and felt like 20 minutes to me." So, um, there's a lot to be said about that. The entertainment dollar, people are going to vote with their dollars. They're not going to say, oh, I don't like it, I'm going to complain. They're going to say, I'm not going to buy tickets. So I think there's going to be a drop in attendance due to this. And why not? You have a family of four these days. You could, for 2.5 hours, you could go to a park or something and save $500-600 and not be rushed.
Well, we shall see. I think that the powers that be like it, and we're not the audience anymore, Rich. We're not. It's the kids, and if the kids like it,
All right.
they
Well,
like
we'll see.
they
We'll
like
see
everything quick.
we'll see if the powers that be like reduced attendance as well, because it's going to happen.
Well, I
It's
don't know
gonna
if a
happen.
team is winning. I don't think it's going to reduce. It's not going to matter.
All right.
That's
Well,
what happened. That's just my opinion. And
we both have our own opinions on it, and that's fine. That's what makes the world go around.
as long as there's no more hot dog nights in Philly,
Yeah, we'll
I
get to
think
that in just a minute. Let's roll through some of the leaders, the MLB leaders at this point. For April 16th here, Sunday, as we're doing this podcast, looking at the batting averages all around the MLB. Luis Arraez, Miami, 511. He's been
yeah.
batting like crazy. He hit the cycle against the Phillies the other day. Matt Chapman for the Toronto Blue Jays, or Jays, if they're just called that this year. I don't know which they're going with this year. 453. And then Josh Rojas, rounding out the top three. Arizona 390. Over in the pitching, all MLB, Kyle Gibson for Baltimore. He's already got 3 wins.
Wow.
Garrett Cole and Joe Ryan, Julio Arias, and Shane McClanahan already with 3 wins. That's a nice start to the season so far.
Yeah, that's a real good start, considering we're so early in.
Yep. Home run department here. The leaders, Rafael Devers from Boston with 7, tied up with somebody that you know so well, Pete Alonso.
Yes. Uh-huh.
7 apiece. Earned run average, we'll jump over to pitching again. Shohei Ohtani, is there anything he doesn't do right? 0.47 ERA. Ex-Yankees pitcher, Sonny Gray there with Minnesota now, 0.53. Not bad to start off the year. Just one more category here. Runs batted in. Yordan Alvarez for those Houston Astros, who had a rough start to 2023 as well, along with the Phillies, already up to 20 RBIs on the season.
So you mentioned Houston off to a rough start. There's a couple of contending teams early on that are off to rough starts. One is your Phillies. My Mets have been so, but not haven't been impressed so far. There's something lacking with the team. Tampa Bay, we mentioned, of course. Any other surprises to you so far in this young season?
As far as the standings are concerned, not really. I'm impressed, of course, with the Tampa Bay Rays, how they started off the season. The Twins starting off well. I'm really surprised at the Rangers leading out in the West so far with 14, 15 games in here. They're 8-6 leading out there. NL East, about what I expected, except for the Phillies. And out West, about what I expected. Everybody's bunched up. So stat-wise and record-wise, no big surprises other than the ones I mentioned.
I would say for me, I think Pittsburgh and Arizona are the surprise teams so far for me. I didn't think Pittsburgh, was going to be that good, and they have to get off. They're the kind of team that've got to get off to a good start. and they're off to a decent start. I don't think it'll last, but same thing with Arizona. But Arizona is an interesting team to me. Um, they were very young. They were pretty decent last year. But they're very young, and they could be something out west there. If it starts to gel, they could put a monkey wrench into the whole Dodger Padre thing, because the Padres are struggling as well. Have had some injuries, of course. They're going to get Tatis back in maybe next week, I believe. His suspension may be up. I think it's up the 20th. So they'll be getting Tatis Jr. back, but he's going to be in a strange position. He's going to be in right field, though he's been playing it now, and he's in rehab in the minors. So he's been playing it. But I think the West is going to be something to watch. I don't think it's going to be cut and dry Dodgers this year, and it's going to be fascinating to see.
Very cool. And as you said earlier in the broadcast, there was a little brouhaha that broke out in the stands in Philadelphia. And that, believe it or not, this first got covered on Twitter, Gary, from a fan who, sent the tweet out. It wasn't advertised on TV, or the media didn't pick up on it, but they picked it up from Twitter with a food fight that happened apparently in the stand in Philadelphia the other night on a dollar dog night. And if you've ever been to one of them, all the hot dogs are $1 a piece, and things got out of hand a little quick.
Well, it was reminiscent somewhat of not as destructive as Dollar Beer Night, if you remember, about 50 years ago in Cleveland, where they actually, or was it in Chicago? I think it was Cleveland. Or was it? There was two of them back in the 60s that really were a disaster.
Cleveland, I think.
Cleveland, yeah. And they actually had to cancel. I think it was the second game of a doubleheader because it got so out of hand with the Dollar Beer Night. I mean, people complain again. You bring up the lines and stuff. I think that they've got to be better prepared for these kind of things. If they're gonna have a dollar night, they better hire extra guys to be walking around the stadium selling the hot dogs. They get those trays and things that they've had for years, and guys have been walking around for years. You don't see as many of these vendors anymore. Um, and I think that's one thing that they're going to have to do. They should add vendors to keep this down. And were they throwing hot dogs? Some people said they were throwing hot dogs. A lot of people said they were throwing the garbage. They were just throwing the wrappers around. So look, the Phillies were getting hit. They were losing the game, and people got a little discouraged.
Yeah, that's what happened. But that's what they do sometimes, is they'll throw dollar dogs down from like the press booth into the Hall of Fame level. And then, people will start copying that. So I don't think you'll see some of the broadcasters doing that. I know they did it because I was there during one of the dollar dogs days, and they tossed a few hot dogs down to people, and they were wrapped, but they don't really fly well when you throw them long distances. So the hot dog comes loose from the wrapper, then the wrapper, it becomes a food fight. But
well, it didn't Philadelphia have an issue a few years ago with shooting the hot dogs as well out of the cannon?
Yeah, they still do that. They still do that in the summertime. The Hatfield dog, launcher, so to speak, into the crowd. But maybe they'll curtail that this year.
I think there may be some curtailing going on.
We have like 20 seconds, so everyone have a great week.
All right, have a great week, Rich.
On the next program, check us out on baseballtalkradio.com. Gary, have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week.
Okay, Rich, and you do the same, and we'll see you all next week on the Baseball Talk Radio Show.
Thank you.